your host, Rhiannon Trutanich. So April is National Pet First Aid Awareness Month. Pretty cool, huh? And one of the best ways to be a responsible pet owner is to know pet first aid techniques. Jean Brusovich from Tranquil Pet is here now to talk to us about the benefits of knowing pet first aid and give us some tips. Knowing pet first aid has even more benefits than making you a prepared pet owner.
You replace panic with a knowledge and a can-do attitude. It enhances your pet training and skills. You could save money on vet bills because you may find something that rather than waiting until your annual pet visit with the vet, you'll find something sooner, and it gives your pet and you a greater and happier, healthier life together.
Jean teaches pet first aid workshops that cover everything from CPR to heat stroke care.
I can't show you on film the pet safety techniques for like CPR and rescue breathing and some other things like that because it's a hands-on class, but I can talk to you about some pet safety techniques.
And it is important to be aware that knowing pet first aid is not a substitute for veterinary care. So anything that we're talking about too in terms of pet first aid isn't a substitute for vet care.
That's right.
You're going to want to get.
That's right.
It's just going to help your pet stay in a better condition until you can get them the proper care.
Yes.
Knowing who to contact if your pet ingests a toxin can make a big difference.
If they've ingested the toxin and you know what it is, and if either they've thrown up or you have it, you could take a sample to your vet to have the vet, test it to tell you what to do. The other thing is, I've had some people say, well, I'll just call 911. While the 911 operators would be very happy to assist, they are not trained in toxicology.
Right.
So there are a couple of places. The ASPCA has a poison helpline, as well as the Pet Poison Helpline.
Okay.
Those are 888 or 800 numbers, and they can help you. The first thing...
Is there a fee for those?
There is a fee for those too. So really the first thing you should do is, if it's daytime or your vet is open, you should call your vet. If they're closed, try your 24-hour emergency. If you can't get through to them, then I would call one of those other two numbers because those people are trained.
And if your dog is injured, there are things you can do to slow down or stop the bleeding while you get him or her to the vet.
If they get cut and they're bleeding, you can take gauze. If you don't have gauze, what I do is I use like old washcloths or hand towels and put that on the wound. Rinse it with water if you have it, and then put that over the wound. Don't pull it away, because if it starts to clot, that can remove that clot and start the bleeding again. So just keep putting another one over it. If you don't have gauze for wrapping it, one thing that I think is a really great idea is to use saran wrap out of your kitchen. Because that stuff sticks together, so you wrap it around the body or wrap it around his leg, and that will hold everything in place until you get into the vet office for them to remove it and do whatever they need to do. If he has a cut on his side here and you wrap it, see if you could rest him on that side on the car, because his body weight will also help slow the blood flow, as opposed to, because I would have thought to just have him resting on the other side. But if he's resting on that wound, as long as he's not in pain, it will help stop the blood flow. So that's another little
storing these all up here. I got them all. I'm storing them. Popeye, are you going to do the same for me? And pet first aid is not just about knowing what to do in a crisis, but being proactive about your pet's health.
So the other thing that I have also that I go over with you is a wellness assessment. And I have a form that I give you, and I suggest that people do a wellness check on their dog every month, just so it will give you what their breathing rate is, what their pulse is. Check on their capillaries to see how the blood flow circulation is in their bodies.
Jean says being consistent is an important part of the wellness check.
When you're checking on their breathing rate, they're always in a resting. For the breathing rate and the pulse, those are always in a resting position. Don't go out running your dog and then start taking their breathing rate and go, oh my God, it's too high. So they have to be in a resting position.
You can check your dog's breathing rate on a monthly or even weekly schedule.
For the breathing rate, you would watch the chest rise and fall.
And that's one.
Yes, that would be one.
Okay.
That would be one cycle. So you would count in the number of cycles in 15 seconds.
Okay.
And then you multiply that times 4. And then number should typically fall between 10 and 30, and that is their resting heart rate.
Okay.
If it's lower or higher, you need to call your vet.
In addition to monitoring your dog's breathing rate, you should also monitor his or her pulse.
As far as their pulse, a normal pulse rate for a dog is 40 to 100 beats per minute. For a cat, it's between 80 and 140. And you would test this on their femoral artery.
Okay.
And when you're testing it on the femoral artery, you count, in 6 seconds, you count the number of beats. In 6 seconds, you multiply that by 10.
Okay.
And that will give you their resting heart rate. Now, the other thing you do when you're testing it on their femoral artery, which is on the inside of their back leg, you don't use your thumb or your index finger because it can get confused with your heart rate. So I always use the third and fourth finger and just rest the third and fourth finger on the femoral artery.
Okay.
And then that will give you their resting heart rate.
The wellness check should also include assessing your pet's blood circulation.
It always should be a nice bright pink. What you do is you lift the gum and you press up above the teeth on that area, and you press, then you take it away and it should come back. It'll turn white when you press on it, and then when you let go, it should come back to being pink between 1 and 3 seconds. If it takes longer, that also is a test for how their blood circulation is going.
Doing all of these things can help you detect changes and issues early on and stay on top of your pet's health. If you are interested in taking one of Jean's pet first aid workshops, please visit tranquilpet.com. Knowing pet first aid can definitely give you peace of mind as a pet parent, and hopefully it's the best advice that you never have to use. Jean is back with us now to talk more about pet first aid. Are there any resources that are easy to access for pet first aid?
The Red Cross has a pet first aid app. It's free. You can download it from iTunes. And a couple of the things that they carry on that is it gives you step-by-step emergency plans. If you travel with your pet, it has a pet locator where you can plug in the zip code of wherever you are, and the vet offices or the emergencies will show up. The other thing is you can also put your pet profile on there with their meds and their picture and their, for in case they ever get lost, everything is right there on your hand. And it also shows you how to create a pet emergency kit.
What is the 7-second rule?
The 7-second rule is you take the back of your hand and you place it on the ground, whether it's the asphalt or the street or the cement, and you have to be able to leave your hand, the back of your hand there for 7 seconds. And I'm talking 1001, 1002, up to 7 seconds. If you can't leave it there, then it's too hot for your pet's pads to walk on that ground. And the other thing to notice is a lot of people during the summer, because everybody's working, they walk their dogs in the evening after the sun goes down. I mean, that is great, but you still need to do that, because if it's been in the 90s and above, the ground has been absorbing that heat all day, so even when the sun goes down, that heat is still bouncing off of the ground, and because the dogs are so low to the ground, it's also hitting them on their belly.
How can I tell if my dog is dehydrated?
So you grab the skin between the shoulder blades and you pull up on it and you let it go, and if it springs back, that means he's hydrated. If it takes its time going down, or it stays up there tended, or it doesn't go down as fast, then I would watch out for that.
Okay. What topics do you cover in your pet first aid workshops?
In the workshop, you will learn to muzzle your dog, because if they're injured, no matter how close you are with them, if they're hurt, they can hurt you because they're just responding to their pain. So you'll learn to muzzle the dog. You'll learn to perform CPR and rescue breathing. You'll learn to provide basic first aid, like we talked about, if they're bleeding or they get, they go into shock. You'll be able to learn how to manage urgent care situations, fractures, broken bones. Dogs have a very high tolerance for pain, so they may have a broken limb, but you may just think they're sprained because they're limping on it, and so you just need to, again, you need to watch the dog and check on those things. You'll learn how to care for heat stroke and frostbite, managing poison, seizures, eye, foot injuries, and just generally prepare for disasters.
When are your pet first aid workshops?
I do them monthly, but in April I am setting up a few more classes because the classes are limited to 10 people because there's a lot to cover and I want to make sure everybody gets the information that they need. The classes are about 4 hours long. Normally they're $80, but because of the April Pet First Aid Awareness Month, I'm reducing it to $70.
Wow.
And right now I have one set up for scheduled for at Camp Runnamut on April 22nd. It's a Sunday.
Okay.
From 10 to 2.
Okay.
And you can register online on my website.
Okay.
And I also have some other places that I'm finalizing, so I'll send that to you, and if you post it for people, then they can fit it into their schedules. See if they can fit it into their schedule.
And we can keep people updated throughout the month on social media as
Right.
as you book more things. We can
Right.
make sure to put that out as well, so everyone can learn all of this,
Right.
especially during April for National Pet First Aid Awareness
Right.
Month.
Right.
If you are interested in taking one of Jean's Pet First Aid workshops, please visit tranquilpet.com. If you have a question, contact us and we'll be sure to get you the right answer.